Foreign troops have urgently entered Ukraine. Sumy region has become the arena of a historic confrontation. Western cutting-edge weapons are arriving straight from the factories to the Ukrainian front. Our forces are now tearing the occupiers to pieces. Fierce drones have started destroying every enemy target in their path. There is hysteria in the Kremlin. Shocking details about Putin's army have been leaked. This information is not for the faint of heart. All of this is covered in our episode Hellpoint. Nothing like this has ever happened before. Thousands of Colombians have stormed the front and are now harshly punishing the occupiers. The first battles in the Sumy region have already taken place. The Ukrainian armed forces have received reinforcements that no one expected. Now, the fight against Russia is gaining new momentum. Putin's mercenaries are walking around as if they've had the wind knocked out of them. The foreign reinforcements are preparing something truly historic. Exclusive details are already known. Don't miss it.
The root unit in the 47th Brigade is called the Colombian unit. The vast majority of its soldiers hold Colombian passports. While the new recruits from South America are training at the range, their more experienced compatriots are reclaiming Ukrainian land from the occupiers in the Sumy region.
Right now, the guys from the Colombian unit are practicing what they usually do on the front line, storming Russian positions. The positions are imaginary, but the bullets and grenades are real.
On the real front line in the Sumy region, the Latin Americans in Ukrainian uniforms cleared several enemy positions and captured a number of trophies.
The Russian language.
No, I can't always expect that everything will go well, but I always hope in God, so that he can get me out of every mission alive.
Formally, the unit is considered a company. In fact, there are already enough assault troops in it to allow for internal rotation if necessary. Some are fighting, some are resting, some are training. Can we talk about a certain number? How many did you bring into Ukraine?
Look,
We've already brought in over 1,000, actually closer to 2,000. Something like that. Hamlet, an ethnic Armenian, the commander and organizer of the unit, never questioned whether there should be a foreign company in the 47th Brigade. He just went ahead and did it. The commander doesn't burden himself with other Hamlet-like questions either.
they have motivation, it's their own personal interest. I didn't ask, I'm not interested. They're fighting, they're doing everything as they should. The rest, I'm not interested in what their motivation is.
But we are interested in what made people travel thousands of kilometers to come and defend Ukraine. Among the many reasons is the financial one.
I am a Colombian individual and I am currently 27 years of age. My military career as a professional soldier began in Colombia. I'm doing this to help the Ukrainian people, as well as to help my family and provide myself with an income.
Well, money is a very important factor because we need money to meet our needs. And on the other hand, this kind of work is a calling. I enjoy doing this.
But the reason for choosing this isn't just about money. For us, the enemy is Russia. Is Russia an enemy for you personally, or just a situational enemy?
I consider it an enemy. I don't understand why this aggression is happening when innocent civilians are dying. I grew up surrounded by violence, and I have also experienced bad things in my own country. Things that we Colombians are not proud of. We have already lived through war, and for us, it's completely normal to take up arms. This is very common in Colombia.
La violencia, violence, that's what this guy calls his civil war, in which the government fought against communist groups. Most Colombian soldiers who joined the 47th Brigade believed that the guerrillas was supported by Russia.
That was always widely known and understood. Always. Always. It consistently supported various illegal leftist armed groups and their activities. It has always been that way.
This particular individual, a gentleman from the country of Peru, has the distinctive call sign Stubborn. 15 years of service in the Peruvian Special Forces unit can't even be compared to what he saw in 8 months in Ukraine.
Since this is a battlefield, you can't expect everything to always go according to plan. I always tell the truth. We know this is war, and that things don't always look rosy. That's why we have to be honest, both about the benefits for servicemen and about the tasks we're carrying out here.
The truth is, here in Ukraine, there is no safe place anywhere. A Shahed drone is flying over us.
Everyone, please get down to the ground immediately.
An explosion goes off somewhere nearby.
Come on, come on, come on.
Colombians have never seen a war like this at home. The Colombian unit, well, let's call it Colombian for convenience, because there are guys from other countries serving here too. This isn't just assault infantry, it's mechanized infantry. For fire support, the unit has these formidable Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, as well as M113 armored personnel carriers. And there are already trained crews for this complex equipment. This driver mechanic is originally from Zimbabwe, a country whose politicians openly declare their support for Russia in the war against Ukraine. Perhaps that's why, at first, the guy had to break through a wall of mistrust in Ukraine.
The gasoline ran out, but that was a little while ago. They didn't share much experience with me about how to do things properly. So at first it was hard to learn. But in this unit, the attitude is unbiased. And the commander here is a great person. He doesn't look down on people and gives them a chance to prove themselves.
Thank you, Commander with a capital C. You have no idea how much it means to me to know that you take me into account. May my God always bless you. Have a wonderful night. May you get some rest until tomorrow. Commander, well, this is pure poetry.
And my whole phone is like this.
The commander is convinced that foreigners, especially Colombians, can become a significant resource for our armed forces.
We're getting... Look, based on the applications we have, in just a month, it's very easy. There are at least 1,000 volunteers who want to come, at a minimum. Just buy them tickets, and they'll all come.
In Colombia, attitudes toward volunteers are mixed. There is no specific law in the country that prohibits Colombians from serving in the military in Ukraine. However, left-wing politicians are slowing down such recruitment, citing international conventions. At the same time, Colombian military leaders acknowledge a direct benefit for Colombia because it is recruits who go to Ukraine, but a modern, well-trained army returns home.
Colombia will receive a ready-made army and soldiers who understand what war is, along with all the modern things that come with it. He has seen everything, he understands everything, he knows everything. The army itself becomes stronger.
Service in the Ukrainian armed forces gives Colombians the opportunity to rapidly climb the ranks of their military careers back home. But first, you have to come out victorious in the war in Ukraine, or at least drive the Russians out of Sumy region.
Glory to Ukraine! Glory to heroes!
Andriy Tsaplienko, Alexander Kleinin, Artem Bulatny, Carmen Marquez, Serhiy Perfilov, TSN Week, 1+1, Marathon, United News.
It finally happened. Unknown drones hit Moscow, striking so precisely that Putin was thrown into a frenzy. However, here's the catch. Instead of defending itself, Russia started launching missiles at its own buildings. The air defense system has completely failed. The Kremlin is trying to cover everything up. The sky is filled with Ukrainian drones. The Russian Federation is losing control over everything. We'll tell you in just a moment which sensitive spot was finally hit and how long it will take the enemy to recover.
Yes,
It's 1 o'clock at night. Moscow isn't sleeping.
there goes. Flying.
This is one of Moscow's districts, Zelenograd, not far from Sheremetyevo airport. Planes aren't flying at this time because the sky is occupied by these unknown drones.
There goes. Damn it, Nikita. I fucking see it. There it is. Damn it. Finally showing up. The formidable enemy. Peering right in front of our very eyes.
Muscovites are probably thrilled to have such guests, because in every video they're shouting like crazy.
Oh, fuck. Damn! It hit the building! This is fucked up!
Meanwhile, Moscow airports are implementing the cover plan, meaning carpet. Air defense systems are operating on the streets and outskirts of the Russian capital. Local authorities warn. Debris is starting to fall on Muscovites' heads.
Unbelievable, the cars are on fire.
This is fucked. This is absolutely, truly fucked. This is completely, utterly fucked.
Aren't you afraid of the second one? The second one never hits.
They told me not to film. Take away the phone.
And in these shots you can see one of the strikes on a residential building.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, demonstrating its agility and speed.
The Russians themselves admit off camera that they don't hear the sound of a drone before the strike. Most likely, that's because the building was hit by a missile from the Russian air defense system itself. This is evidenced by the absence of drone noise, the speed, and the aftermath, since only the windows were damaged.
It actually hit right here. Look, I'm telling you, it definitely hit the house.
Later, the Russian Ministry of Defense itself stated, all of this is the result of drone debris falling. They were supposedly shot down at night over the Moscow region, about 20 of them.
My window just fell off completely. They hit the factory.
At the factory, it's currently burning at home. A very critical situation.
They hit something. There's a huge blaze. Oh, wow. Awesome. To be continued.
For many years now, even Russians themselves have called Zelenograd the center of microelectronics. Here is located a Russian research institute that conducts fundamental studies in semiconductor physics. And also the microelectronics plant Micron, which came under sanctions back in 2022 for working for the Russian army. And here's what they say about themselves.
When our space station Mir was launched into orbit in the 1980s, it was literally packed with chips from the Micron plant. They made up 80% of all the station's electronics. And 2 years later, the Buran successfully took off and landed. And once again, the main supplier of microchips for its onboard systems was the Zelenograd plant.
Earlier this year, Micron was already hit. In May this year, drones struck the central building. However, whether it was the target this time is unknown. Ukrainian special services have not commented on the information yet. Overall, drones have been attacking the Moscow region for the third day in a row. Alina Matvichuk, Vikna STB program. The only news.
NATO is entering Ukrainian territory. Western innovations are heading straight to the front lines. A new level of cooperation. Allies are ready and waiting. The Ukrainian armed forces are ready to show what these iron predators can do in real combat conditions. All that's left for Russia is to try to guess, like reading tea leaves, what will strike its soldiers' positions next. A real breakthrough is in the making. Which weapons will ultimately be tested first on Ukrainian training grounds? And what trump cards Ukraine already holds is already known. All this and more in the following report.
Tested in Ukraine. Weapons without this label, it seems, will soon fall out of favor in the West. After all, when the largest war in Europe since World War II is taking place, laboratory testing has lost its meaning. Any development can now be tested directly on the battlefield. The defense cluster Brave One has officially announced the launch of the Test in Ukraine program, which will allow foreign arms manufacturers to test new products directly on the front lines. Companies will send their developments to Ukraine, conduct online training on how to use them, and then wait for Ukrainian troops to test them and send back reports.
A large number of private companies currently engaged in armaments and weapons production have made a significant contribution in this area. And now there's a critical need to coordinate interaction between these companies. Thanks to such testing grounds, we can say that interaction will take place, more collaborations will happen, and this will allow for the creation of joint products that will work more efficiently.
First and foremost, this refers to unmanned systems, electronic warfare complexes, as well as missile systems.
This drone has already deployed more than 180 mines. It has performed quite well, and as you can see, it has returned. Among the other drones you saw, there is a kamikaze drone. Basically, it is versatile. It can act as a kamikaze drone and also deliver cargo, especially small loads.
According to the Minister of Digital Transformation, Mikhailo Fedorov, such an influx of partners and the mass dispatch of equipment for testing in Ukraine will help to find solutions more quickly, ultimately to change the course of the war.
The armed conflict is currently in an acute phase, which gives corporations the opportunity to test their weapon systems in real combat conditions. Most of these technologies include drones, systems for controlling them, processing the intelligence they gather, as well as means of detecting and countering drones, mainly through electronic warfare tools, but also using air defense systems.
At the same time, experts say the Test in Ukraine program not only helps to test the development on the battlefield, but also to understand how Western weapons cope with countering a potential enemy. After all, Russia has been officially recognized at the NATO level as one of the main threats to the alliance.
This gives them an advantaged opportunity to test their developments against the Russian army, to study Russian defense systems, and to adapt their weaponry to counter the technologies that Russia is using on the battlefield and possibly those that China may use in the future.
Participants in the program have the opportunity to test their developments not only at the front, but also deep in the rear of the Russian Federation when it comes to long-range weapons. This includes countering Russian electronic warfare systems, the ability to identify targets using artificial intelligence, and directly the capability to destroy the required target.
Such capabilities exist. Currently, they are mostly implemented with the help of long-range drones. A wide variety of factories are being struck, ones that are critical to the military-industrial complex of the Russian Federation.
In addition, manufacturers will be able to test their products directly on site, that is, by coming to Ukraine themselves. This will allow for real-time modifications. There is also the option to entrust the testing to Brave One specialists. In that case, the experts will conduct the testing themselves and provide partners with a detailed report on the results. And this work is already underway, particularly in the field of UAVs.
Many of these drones, as far as I understand, are classified. These include, for example, the VBED and also the Vector. Both are used for reconnaissance, surveillance, and data collection. This conflict is a perfect testing ground for weapons.
In an interview with Reuters, Artem Moros, the head of investor relations at Brave One, said that many companies have already shown interest in the Testing Ukraine program, of course without going into details. So who and what exactly is going to be tested in Ukraine and Russian Federation we'll find out in real time.
A real enemy drone downpour on the front line. Ours made it happen. A Russian position turns into a tin can when they're in the sky. These interceptor drones are becoming the occupiers' new nightmare. They sting like bees and leave no chance of survival. Our operators are putting on a masterclass. The enemy is really feeling the heat. But the most interesting part is still ahead. We'll tell you about the specifics of drone warfare, where it's hottest right now, and the surprises still awaiting the Russian army in our report right now.
We're flying after the Supercam. And this is one of the most common types of enemy reconnaissance drones.
There's no electronic warfare, right?
No, right now the prevailing conditions are almost absolutely perfect. And this is precisely how we diligently work every single day. This is what our entire comprehensive job is truly all about, encompassing every aspect of our responsibilities.
Is this the second one you've taken down today?
This is already the second one, and the second Supercam specifically for today.
This is footage of a Russian drone being hit, filmed by the soldiers before we arrived at the positions. The warriors of the Rubish Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, who are holding the defense on the Lyman-Kupiansk front, shoot down enemy drones using regular FPV drones, or as the soldiers also call them, interceptor drones.
The principle of shooting them down is to fly the drone as close as possible to the enemy wing and simply detonate, preferably as close as possible to it. But thanks to the combat charge, there is a certain radius within which the wing will still be damaged and will fall.
Unlike when working against ground targets, FPV interceptors do not need a large ammunition load. A 100 or 200 gram explosive is enough to tear off the wing or tail of an enemy drone.
A small charge is applied.
A big canister, I see.
A camera, a large battery, yes, so it can fly far and high.
But shooting down an enemy drone isn't easy, because the Russians are also learning in this war. And the fighters say it's not worth underestimating them.
In our sector, the enemy mostly uses UAVs like the Zala and Supercam. But lately they've changed their tactics a bit, and with the Zala UAVs, they fly in at high speed, conduct reconnaissance, and then fly out at high speed. It's precisely because this drone can reach high speeds that it can catch up with the Zala.
They often install a mirror. This is the so-called electronic warfare system against the Zala and Supercam, which, when approached, causes the control to be lost. Either the video feed is cut off and it can't be targeted.
The National Guard members say that thanks to improvements in drones, their firmware, reduced weight, and increased battery capacity, we are technically ahead of the enemy. And even in situations where it seems there is no way out, the fighters find one.
We can fly out to the same target with two different drones. If one frequency is jammed, we can take another drone and fly on a different frequency. So it's really not a problem at all. thanks to the fact that we have our own workshop where the guys do all of this themselves.
On your screens, you can see the card number and QR code. The fighters are in dire need of drones and parts for them.
In addition to being used to strike aerial targets, unfortunately some drones are also lost due to electronic warfare or other factors. There are also a lot of consumables like propellers and various internal parts. Of course we like these. We wish we had more.
Drones, especially FPVs, are consumables that only fly in one direction. And during the day, a single crew uses dozens of drones for strikes. So you can imagine how many enemy reconnaissance drones are constantly circling in the sky.
Depending on the weather conditions, when the weather is good, there can be more than 20 flights. If the weather isn't very good, there might only be a couple of flights in a day. So a lot really depends on the weather conditions.
But there are days of massive enemy assaults, and then you have to fly even in bad weather, just to stop the enemy who is conducting reconnaissance. The National Guardsmen say drones are just hardware. And even if it takes 5 birds for one target, a destroyed enemy reconnaissance drone is many times more expensive than an FPV. And most importantly, the enemy UAV will no longer be able to direct artillery fire at our infantry. Reporting from the front line, Vladislav Krulov, Viktor Zelenkov, Oleg Cymbalyuk. Fakti ICTV, United News.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
The Russian army has begun a tactic of self-destruction, a complete reset. Putin has given the order. The soldiers are scared. The generals are foaming at the mouth with rage. The enemy is trying every possible way to hide their losses. However, something unexpected might happen. The Russians are on the edge. Hundreds of videos with complaints. Will there be a revolt against the Russian military command? And what is the current situation with Putin's mercenaries? Find out more in the following report.
In December of last year, 4 servicemen from the 34th Brigade were executed in the Kursk region. These were Russian army soldiers with the call signs Beast, Shadow, Shelby, and Casper, and they were shot not by Ukrainian armed forces soldiers, but by their own comrades in arms. The reason for the execution was that they failed to carry out an order.
A day earlier, the commander of the battalion of the 34th Brigade, Maxim Chernov, call sign Novosibirsk, gave the AGS group an order to fire at a designated target from a specific position. The group set out on the mission. The position turned out to be swampy, and they were unable to properly set up the weapon. The group came under enemy artillery fire. The soldiers were wounded, but they couldn't carry out the order, which they reported to their superior with the call sign Zima. He reported this to Chernov, who replied, "Let them return, and upon return reset them." The guys were evacuated, brought to headquarters the next day for a talk, and that same day they were executed by firing squad. The bodies were thrown into a well, covered with branches and a camouflage net. Their relatives were told that they were missing in action.
Until the 15th of March, the deceased were officially listed as missing. That was until relatives, friends, and witnesses to the execution found the well where they had been dumped. Currently, 3 Russian army soldiers who shot their fellow servicemen have been detained and are being held in a pre-trial detention center.
In fact, that's where the story could end, since no one is holding those responsible for the execution accountable. Commander Chernov is feeling just fine, on vacation, and couldn't care less about anyone. He has a general for an uncle, so he can do whatever he wants. The investigation is practically not being conducted. There are plenty of witnesses, but no one is listening to them. Investigators are constantly being replaced, and the relatives are treated with utter disrespect.
In the Russian army, the killing of their own soldiers is called resetting, but in plain terms, it's an execution. And the commander can give such an order for any offense at the front line. This is normal practice for the so-called Second Army in the world.
In short, they want to reset their own.
The commander ordered to reset my brother.
They simply zeroed in on our boys, our fighters, reset. As a witness.
They took it out and just stupidly reset it. They just said to zero them out.
And these are the last words of the Dagestani said Murtaza Aliyev. The 18-year-old serviceman recorded an address. He said that the commanders of the unit, with the call signs Altai and Kila, ordered him to collect money from the subordinates, after which they decided to get rid of him as a witness.
By order of the regiment commander, I collected 1,150,000 by order of the regiment commander so that the guys wouldn't go on the assault. After that, they sent me on the assault myself, where comrade with the call sign Spartak said that an order had come down to eliminate me.
Seth came to Moscow for the winter holidays, where he was arrested on charges of fraud. At the station, Mortazaliev was offered to sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense, and when he refused, they began to torture him. When the young man arrived at the unit, he was forced to collect money. And the day after he recorded his appeal, the commanders declared the serviceman missing. The video was published by his mother, who is still searching for her son.
272nd Regiment, Company V, Commander Altry, Commander Kilo.
According to various estimates, between 50 and 100,000 Russians may have gone missing in the war in Ukraine. But the Kremlin remains silent about why there are so many missing, how many of them have been wiped out, and even this number the authorities are diligently trying to conceal.
On the Soledar front, our forces are fighting relentlessly. The occupiers crawl out like rabid rats from the darkness, but as soon as they appear, they come under fiery retribution. Ukrainian drones are shattering their audacious plans. Still, the enemy does not stop trying to push forward, though only over their own corpses, without pity or sense. What kind of battle is it with those who don't even care about their own? All about this, straight from the source. In the following report.
While the cannon is being prepared to fire, the soldiers are aiming using fresh coordinates from our aerial scouts, who have spotted a target near Soledar.
They tried there, it didn't work out, so they just move on to another direction. But they move in groups, 3 or 4 people, sometimes 6, sometimes 9.
There are a lot of enemy troops, and they advance from several directions on foot in bad weather and on motorcycles when it's dry. The enemy is driven by deadlines and blocking detachments.
To say that they care about or protect their personnel, well, no. In most cases, when we observe their forward groups getting killed, other groups simply continue to push forward in the same way, right behind them. It could be one group or more. If they have a particular task to accomplish, they will push it to its absolute limit.
To detect the enemy and keep them away from our fortifications, our drones are constantly on watch in the sky. The lives of our infantry are at stake, so our crews are in the air around the clock.
We detect the flight of their FPV drones' wings at decent lines. That's the analog type. And then we take the appropriate measures. Are there a lot of them? Well, yes, there are a lot of them.
Crews conduct reconnaissance with wings, searching for targets in tree lines, ruined villages. Drone operators destroy infantry with drops or FPVs.
Now people fear drones more than snipers. I was saying that
the enemy abandons their comrades and runs away from the drone. They leave them behind for a long time. They just leave them right on the roads. After that, no one comes to retrieve them. They rot, and people just walk around them. There are literally well-trodden paths around that corpse. They walk around them, drive around them, and never return the bodies to their families.
In the Soledar direction, the enemy is constantly rotating their personnel. There are more attacks now, and enemy soldiers who have already been trained to fight against our drones are going into battle.
The number of assault attempts has increased along our brigade's entire line of responsibility. So we try to catch them every day and night. Very often we spend several days just to find them, to figure out where they've slipped in, if it's them.
Our howitzer fired at the coordinates of the grove where the enemy is gathering. The gun is quickly camouflaged again, because their drones and shells come flying in response. Because of the abundance of drones, we often have to get off the road and hide in the bushes, since something is always flying overhead and you never know if it's our drone or not. Especially here, right near the front line, where drones operate 24 hours a day. Drones now interfere with both our logistics and the enemy's. If artillery duels used to take place in the fields, now it's drone duels.
This is already a drone war. Both they and we are already struggling with logistics. Both sides are switching to ground-based robotic systems. Drones will fight against drones. Pilots will gradually become obsolete, and artificial intelligence will slowly replace us.
This is the war of the future, which we are witnessing with our own eyes. And although drones are slowly pushing soldiers off the battlefield, for now the soldier remains irreplaceable. This means our guys on the front line constantly need reinforcements, both equipment and new people. Ruslan Yermolyuk, Mikhailo Putyata, TSN, 1+1 Marathon, United News from the Soledar direction.
That's all from me for now. I was with you, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more hellish news from the front in our next podcast. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon!